but I thought I would rather know and fail than not know. So I had to at least try, because I knew it would just claw away at me until I at least knew. And if the result was failure, awesome, then I can go get another job. That job would be gone, but some other job, I could do that. But I had to know.
Hey guys, it's Renelle, and in this video, I'm super excited to share with you my interview with Evan Carmichael. If you're not yet familiar with who he is, he's huge here on YouTube. His main channel alone has over 2 million subscribers, I'll link it down below, and he runs several different channels. At the age of 19, he built and sold his own biotech software company, and at 22, he became a venture capitalist. So, if you're interested in finding out his tips on entrepreneurship, how to manage fear, how to create content more efficiently, then just keep on watching. So there's a lot of really successful people in the world who make lots of money and are really all about the hustle and the grind, and they're very impressive. But I think what's more impressive is to find successful people who also manage to stay humble and really prioritize helping others. So you're quite philanthropic in the sense that your mission is to inspire and help 1 billion entrepreneurs. You're raising funds for Kiva. You offer free Q&As for entrepreneurs. So my question is, have you always had this innate kind of need to give back and help others, or did something along your journey inspire that? And also, how have you managed to stay so level-headed with all the eyeballs and the recognition?
Right. Cool. So my mom always used to tell me that if you have the ability, you have the responsibility. If you can, then you must. And I think I picked up the service aspect from her, wanting to go have an impact. She's still around, but she did a lot of stuff that was groundbreaking for women at the time. Like, you're not supposed to have this role. You're not supposed to be able to do that. And she always just said, forget that, I'm going to go do it, which is great. I don't have that, I guess, as a white male, but watching her want to be somebody who was trying to have an impact, even when it made her feel judged and people attacking her, was inspiring for me to go off and have my own impact. The humbleness, the biggest fight I get into with my agent is, Evan, your biggest problem is you don't want to be famous. And I have no need to be famous. Even like here in lights and everything, I've gotten more used to it, but it's awkward for me. I'm introverted. I'd much rather not tell my story and just try to help. But the thing that ended up sticking was, if you want to have an impact, you have to get known. And so how does an introvert who's humble become known? I don't know. I'm working on it, right? Like, join me on my journey and we'll figure it out. I think the thing that I've had to actually work on is not the humbleness, is more the boldness. It's the courageousness. It's the believing in myself more. I think if you're humble, then I think it's hard to lose that. I remember I went to this YouTube event, and I had 1 million subscribers at the time in LA, and I spent the whole time just in the lobby with entrepreneurs. From 7:30 in the morning to 2:30 at night.
Wow.
Yeah, it was not healthy, but I loved it. And the number one comment I got from people was, man, you're so humble to be here with us, just startups where everybody else was going to the VIP lunches and go-karts and fancy stuff. And it made me proud, but also upset, and when did humbleness become uncool? Why is it not part of it? And I said, I want to come back next year and have 10 million subscribers and just do the same thing all over again. And so I think you can definitely do it. I think you can definitely be humble and win your way, and it's only easier to win your way. And just surround yourself with role models that are doing it.
So, you talk about going into it as an introvert and, working through all those things. But I imagine your focus has probably changed a lot from when you first started off versus, now. So can you talk a bit about that? How did your focus shift from starting out versus, what your journey is looking like now?
And I guess it's been a thing. Like I haven't worried about what to expect and what to not. I was like focused on where I'm at right now.
Keep going.
Yeah, just keep going. I mean, I started as an experiment, just a test, just something fun to do. Just I thought about it, and I think one of the things that's really helped me the most is going from idea to action, and that as soon as you get an idea, trust that your ideas are good and do something about it, even if it doesn't work out, because I expect to suck at the beginning of everything that I do. So just go, just start it. My first video I did 10 years ago, 10 plus, and in the first year I had 3 comments on it. One was from my mom. The first one was from my mom. Thank you, Mom. The second one was from my older sister. And then the third one was some random dude. So like, hey, I finally,
did it.
I did it. It was like 1 year of the video being up and 1 comment that wasn't my family, right? So that, just looking back, but I never made it for the comments. It wasn't a measure of am I successful or not. It was just go, just keep making it. So it's changed a lot over the past 10 years, and it's only going to change more over the next years. I do these workshops in Toronto that are free, free Q&A. Will it still be here next year? I don't know. Maybe I stop it next week. I don't know. I'm not so concerned about where it's going, more that am I doing, like, what am I doing right now? So if I'm looking at you and your YouTube channel, you're happy with what you're doing right now, and just expect it to be. I think often people don't change enough. I think, like, you might find, maybe you make a video about, I don't know, the favorite book that you've ever read. And it was a fun video to make, and like, man, I love this book, it's great to show off this author. And then the video takes off. It's like, oh, I should make more videos on books. So then you make all these other videos on books. And you like to read, and so you keep making these books. But eventually that might become a job, that might be boring. It's like, well, I don't just want to be the book reviewer woman. I have other things, right? And
it's so funny because I've actually thought about that before, and that was my train of thinking as well.
And so it's switching, having the courage to switch it up, right? To say, for me, I still love making my top 10 videos. I still love making these kind of videos. I still love speaking. The second I stop loving it, I'll just move on to something else. Because people often end up just, what started off as a fun experiment, was creative, then became a job, and is sucking the creativity out of it. So if you want to be the book lady, amazing, but if that's only part of what you do, then you need to go off and express the other side. And at the beginning, it won't be that big a deal, but then it'll start eating away at you. It's like, man, I became an entrepreneur to do my own thing, not to just be a slave to making this type of content. And I don't think people actually do enough switching. I don't think people do enough switching, enough experimentation, and then they end up burning out or quitting.
I think you talk a lot about pushing yourself and making sure that you're constantly growing. But I think there's a lot of fear involved in that. So what is your greatest fear, and how do you manage fear in general?
So my greatest fear is disappointing people. So the idea that you would come and you would have questions and I wouldn't be able to answer them, and I wouldn't be able to help people.
That's still a fear for you?
Yeah. Like even this morning, I did an IG live with a woman who, she's got over 1 million Instagram followers. I didn't know much about her. My team lined up an interview, and so like, I need to research her. I got to understand her story. I'm nervous because I don't want to come on and I could either just go on and say, hey, tell me your story and just have a conversation. But I feel like I owe it to her and to the audience to know more about her and her message and what she's about, so that I can ask an insightful question when we get on to the thing. Lots of people in this industry just totally wing it and have a conversation, but I feel like that's, I don't know, I could do more, and so I'm disappointing. Maybe nobody else cares, maybe it's just my own thing, I don't know, but it still happens. By the time you come here, I've done so many interviews and everything today that it just becomes fun. But if it was the first one, I'd be like, I hope I bring value, I hope it's good, and hope it's helpful to people. But so what? So that's your biggest fear, and you teach yourself to do scary things, right? So what I've taught myself is that if my heart's boom, 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 I do it. I have to do it. Even the point of the tour, where I did the 90 days in 23 cities, was supposed to be a free coffee shop meetup tour. And my agent in New York said, that's too weak. You should be charging for the event. And the fact that he said I should charge for it already started making my heart beat, because like, oh my God, now I can't just show up, and I gotta have a presentation, and what if nobody comes, and how much do I charge? And now that they're charging, they're gonna have different expectations whenever I don't deliver. But because that was my thought process, then I had to go do it. Just because, just to defeat it. I think we play small by default. And so when you catch yourself playing small and being afraid, then, at least for me, I want to teach myself to go do it. So, we're in a dance studio here filming this. My condo is like a 20-minute walk from here. I would walk from my condo to here and play music, and I would start dancing. And it's a bunch of side streets, but then I hit Yonge and Shepherd, which is, giant. You got 200 people around it. And then I noticed that I went from dancing to just the head bob. Why? Because I'm worried about
what other people think.
But I didn't even consciously do it. And then I found myself just, what am I doing? Like, who cares about these people? Most people won't even care. If you just start dancing, most people won't even notice. Some people may think, wow, that is weird. And some people they celebrate it, great. But because I was worried of the judgment, then I had to dance even bigger on the street. But the moment that was a little scarier there was that, how many times have I done that walk and never noticed it? I probably did the same thing hundreds of times and just never noticed it. You play small by default because we're worried about other people's opinions, because we're afraid. And so anytime you catch it, then you have to go do the thing. Even you being here, like, maybe it's scary. I've never done this, right? But yes, I do scary things. So I want to teach myself that I do scary things.
So you use it basically as an indication to know that you should do the thing.
Yeah, because if you look at your calendar for the next week or the next month, and there's nothing in there that makes you scared, you hate your life. You're just photocopying the same thing. You're in a boring routine, which is not what an entrepreneur does. And so you have to inject things in that make you scared or that make you nervous. And so if you look at the reasons why you're not doing something, you have goals, you want to make this happen. You're not doing it, most people, because they're afraid. Well, that's not a good enough reason, because you do scary things. And the other thing that often comes up, well, it's too hard or too difficult. Well, that's not a good reason either, because you do hard things.
It's true.
You want to do easy things your whole life? No, you want to do hard things. So if you ever catch it in the language, yourself talking to yourself or yourself talking to somebody else, where if you say, well, that's hard, or it's difficult, or I'm afraid, then use that as a trigger, I have to go do it. Even if it has nothing to do with your business or your goals, just to teach yourself that you do scary things. Did you hear about when I painted my nails?
I did hear about that, yeah.
It's the same thing. Like, I painted my nails because I was afraid of judgment. I haven't done it since, because it's not an expression of myself. It's not what I do, but I could do it. I've done it, just to show myself that I can do it. And that makes you stronger for everything else. Like, if you want to be a great entrepreneur, you're going to do a bunch of things that you're putting yourself out there that you're going to get judged for. If you can't do something as simple as paint your nails that's going to wear off in 2 weeks, then how are you going to do this crazy, amazing thing? You won't. And so anytime you catch yourself feeling afraid because of somebody's judgment or potential judgment, then at least for me, I teach myself I have to do it, just because. I
remember last week you talked about how your publisher told you had 1 week to finish your book. How'd that go, first of all?
Pretty good.
Yeah?
Yeah, pretty good.
Did you manage to finish?
I did. I fortunately planned enough ahead that I could get stuff done, but I got up at 3:45 on Saturday morning and went until 7 or something, 6:30, 7 at night.
Oh my gosh.
And got it done. But just the publishing industry is a weird industry. Yeah, so as much as you can get ahead as possible. Okay. Yeah, so we got it.
And since you managed to do that, do you have any advice for authors on how to create content quicker?
Practice speaking it, I think. Practice telling it. I think a lot of what came out for me, now I do more speaking than I do writing, so maybe that's why it's easier. But I find that a book is a condensed version of all of your thoughts. It's synthesized of all your best thoughts to help solve X problem. So how do you synthesize your thoughts? How do you do that? I had to go use some big word. How do you mush them together? Well, it's from practice of I think speaking it and interacting with people, because what you want is you want somebody to read your book and then get a result. They're going to read your book and then it's going to make some change happen and then they're going to go and do it. You don't want somebody to just read the book, okay, and put it on their shelf and not do anything. So how do you move people to action? I think the best practice is to actually practice moving people to action. So it's doing one-on-one coaching, it's doing speaking at events, it's doing a Q&A session. I was able to write the book. I didn't write the whole book in that one day, but I was able to write the book faster while I was still on my tour because everything I was writing about, I'd already said, I'd already practiced. A lot of the stories I'd already done a lot of dry runs through, either through YouTube videos or by helping people one-on-one. So I think the more you get those ideas out there and field tested, because you might think you have a great idea, say, here's how you change your life. Here's the morning routine that you need to have, for example. Great. You might tell that to somebody, and then they say, well, it doesn't work for me. How do you react? How do you show them? What are their excuses going to be? And then how you help that person becomes ammunition to help the next person and next person. And then as you do it enough times, you get pattern recognition and say, okay, here's what I'm going to say, and here's what most people are going to say, and then here's what I'm going to say, and then it's going to work. So all of that, when you've done that enough, then you put it into the book. That's at least for nonfiction, right? That's all I write. I don't write fiction. For fiction, I have no idea. I mean, you're coming up with characters and plots, and I don't know how people do it. But for nonfiction, you have to write about what you know. If you're still trying to figure it out, then it's just more like a mind mapping exercise than actually having finished content. So there's not a lot of brand new. There's a couple things that came up as I was writing, a couple moments, but most of the content is a result of the 23 stops that I did on my tour. So every 3-4 days I was with another group and then coaching entrepreneurs one-on-one after, and all of their problems and everything we went through becomes the next book. Now I'm not saying like Jill from Albuquerque had this problem, right? But most people had the same problems. And then how we worked through them became the next book.
Okay, so it's really about like practically applying it first and then, okay.
So what do you want to write a book about?
Potentially in the self-improvement niche. So I'm not sure yet, but it's kind of a goal I have for the future.
Got it. It'll still be the same thing about purpose from your pain. Like, you have to share what you went through. Otherwise, why listen to you? If you're going to share a book about self-improvement, like here's 5 steps to change your life. Well, did you change your life? Like, where did you come from? Why am I going to listen to you?
What's the number one mistake that you see, or kind of the biggest hurdle that you feel would help other entrepreneurs if they just like avoid this, or something that you wish that you had known before you had started being an entrepreneur?
I would say 2 things. One, just chasing opportunity. I think people just chase opportunity and end up losing. I'm going to start a podcast because podcast is the hot thing, or I'm going to start a YouTube channel because I'm going to be YouTube famous, but like you don't actually love making videos. That's a problem. But most people just chase opportunities because they're looking for the short-term transactions. And 2, just not being consistent enough. I wasn't very good at this. Like, go back. All my videos are up. You can watch it. I was not very good. You're already better than I was when I started. No, way better, way better. Like, go back and watch it.
Okay.
It's why I kept all the videos up so that you can watch it. I just kept at it. I just kept going. I just kept going.
And how do you get to a point where you're making 3 videos a day for 8 different channels? Like, I don't know. Don't you get like tired? How do you map out actually the scripting and the whole process?
I mean, I have a team, and you figure that out. I mean, even here, how do we get 3 lights and 2 cameras and all this? I mean, we have Katie. Katie's a rock star. I couldn't do any of this stuff. I couldn't even set up the tripod for my cell phone to do like our Instagram live, right? So why that light has to be so bright on my face and like these are little, she knows what she's doing. You figure it out along the way. I mean, I have 24 people on my team, so they all do so much for me compared to what I'm capable of doing. I wouldn't worry about hacking that yet, like what to do when you have 24 people. Like, make it a full-time thing, right? That's the first step, and it's through doing the work. Like, I wouldn't get the full-time doing this because this would be too expensive. Like, it wouldn't make sense for me as a startup to try to hire Katie to do all this stuff for me. I would do it all myself and then build up momentum and then keep going.
Okay.
Yeah.
And did you ever reach a point, whether in your business, YouTube, anything, where you had to make a really tough decision? How did you approach it, and what was kind of your approach to the decision-making process?
The hardest decision I ever had to make in my life was deciding between taking my dream job and making 6 figures and traveling around the world doing investment banking that I thought I wanted, or being an entrepreneur, making $300 a month and owning 30% of a company. And I made that decision to be an entrepreneur out of fear of regret. And so that's it. Any tough decision, I just look through the lens of regret. And I imagine myself at 95 and just say, am I going to regret? Which one am I going to regret more? And then I make sure that that doesn't happen. Even if it doesn't work. I actually didn't think I would work, because most entrepreneurs don't make it. But I thought I would rather know and fail than not know. So I had to at least try, because I knew it would just claw away at me until I at least knew. And if the result was failure, awesome, then I can go get another job. I mean, that job would be gone, but some other job, I could do that. But I had to know.
I think that's it. Thank you so much.
Cool, all right.